Welcome, everybody, to Fish Stripes Live. We're here to preview the upcoming Met series. I'm your host, Noah Berger. We've got the usual suspects, some of them. The rest are at the ballpark having fun. We've got Eli, of course, is here. We've got Brent. We've got Grant making his stream debut. We've got our new guy, Wyatt Van Dyke. And as our guest today, we have Santiago from San Luis Marlins. How's everybody doing?
Busy. A lot of stuff going on. And
I'm sad I'm not at a Marlins game like I've been all week.
So I guess we'll go right into that. Just looking back at the series split between the Marlins and the Reds, a lot of stuff happened, and also a lot of stuff didn't happen. Grant, you were there. What you got from there? What you got from this past series?
All bias aside, that was one of the most eventful series of the year, both on and off the field. We learned a lot. And I mean, we learned a lot, like off the field stuff, especially with the Max injury, more roster moves. Honestly, Dan Castano's injury made headlines. That was really scary, but glad he was okay. And I was really surprised with Monday's result. I watched back the last stream early before we got on just to see how it went. So I was really surprised that they got blown out. Now looking back on it, Pablo's start went well. I'm hoping it's not his last start, but then again, it's a business. And Wednesday was Castillo day. Look, guys, locked in right now. He's just getting his trade value up for the Reds. And then yesterday was probably the Marlins have had a lot of comeback wins this year, but I think that was probably top 5 comeback wins this year. Jesus Sanchez being tied for the Major League home run lead for home runs in the 9th inning. That's pretty impressive. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, every time he's about to get sent down, he hits a home run in the 9th inning.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Pinch
single-handedly
hit home
turns
run
around
too.
the game.
Pinch hit home run. I mean, that was so unexpected. I had the recap typed out. I had my title picture. I had everything ready to hit submit. Boom, he hits a home run. I know it was in a short part of the yard. It's a really small ballpark. That wouldn't have been a home run at Lone Depot, but that changed everything. And look, I'm glad it provided a spark. And, Wendell and Aguilar were able to follow it up. That was a really good game for Aguilar.
All right. Wyatt, what did you see from that series?
I mean, it was eventful. You got Bladay's first home run off Castillo. It's good to see success against such a great pitcher. I'm a noted Huascar Brazoban fan, so to see him strike out 5, I mean, he's just the coolest story. So to watch him succeed is great. If that was Pablo Lopez's last start as a Marlin, I mean, 7 innings of 2-hit baseball is about as good a way as you can go out. I'm glad to see that Daniel Castano's injury isn't as extensive as something like 104-mile-an-hour comebacker off the face could be. Just like a minor concussion is about the best you can hope out of that situation. It's good to see him walk off under his own power. But a split is I mean, it works, it's not eventful, but with where the offense is at, that's about what you can hope for at this point in the season.
And going back to Castano real quick, we talked about the guy being a trooper. Look, we were all getting ready to head into the clubhouse. We're like, hey, we're planning out like who we're going to interview. We all pretty much agreed no Castano because he probably wouldn't want a camera in his face. But he asked to do the interview. He said, hey, guys, I'm okay. But we went outside because they were playing music in the clubhouse. So it's really good to see that he's in good spirits.
Yeah, it was very scary. Santiago, anything specific you want to point out from the last series?
Yeah, just the way they teeter with our emotions, don't they, all season long? I mean, they get drilled 10-0 in game 1. They pull out a nail-biter 2-1 in game 2. They can't pull out game 3, and then you're thinking they're going to go down 3 out of 4 to the Cincinnati Reds. And somebody typed on Twitter, Jesus answers prayer. So Jesus comes up with another clutch homer, man. I mean, I know he's had a rough one of late, and it's not been pretty. The numbers will show it, but something that you got to give him credit for is he's come up with some clutch homers this year. He had that one in Washington too. So they just teeter with our emotions, man. They find a way to get a split, and all of a sudden they're 5 back here with Sandy on the mound today. So let's see what happens.
That's like you said, Santiago, man. We get blown out in game 1. That's baseball for you. Plays with your emotions, ups, downs, roller coaster, especially being a Marlins fan.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said something in the chat. It was good to see Jacob Stallings getting hot, finally consistently barreling out baseballs, getting on base, flipping the lineup over, which was good because Joe also had a good series, putting the ball in play for Aguilar, which led up to that really good 3-for-4 game. And it was just good to see our sluggers step up in that game.
It might be a little exaggerating to say he's barreling up balls, but he's he's getting hits, and first time in a while that he's been over 200. I was really preparing for some big stalling slander, like actually going into the history books and saying how often it is that anybody in Marlins history hits as bad as he does as like a regular player. He was on that kind of pace where it was like historically bad, absolutely nothing. This was one of his best offensive series of the whole year. I think every single game he started, he reached base about maybe twice.
I think his OBP for the series was somewhere north of 400.
Yeah, and the whole road trip for him, actually, in the Pirates series as well. So that was offensively the best week that he's had all season. That's not saying much, but it's saying something.
And he said that that sense of familiarity in Pittsburgh definitely helped him. And he said, I asked him about, Great American Ballpark being a former division rival yard. Does that help you at all a lot? And he said, well, I've actually sucked at Great American Ballpark. And he's had the base Castillo, Bauer, Sonny Gray. And he said, look, Pittsburgh kind of gave me a spark, being back in Pittsburgh helped him. So I really think we're going to get a decent second half from Stallings now. I wish Pittsburgh was the first series of the year. Maybe MLB schedule makers need to help us with that next year. But it's really good to see him winning. That's a guy I'm rooting for now.
All right. So we had an eventful Red Series. Didn't come out all healthy there. We've got a bunch of injury updates that we got to go through. Eli's going to cue them up. I've got them listed here. Anthony Bender pitched for Pensacola, is pitching for Pensacola tonight. Jordan Holloway is in Jupiter. Sixto is scheduled to throw a live BP in Jupiter tomorrow. Birdie's progressing. Jazz is still in Jupiter. Cooper worked out with the team today. Luzardo pitched on Wednesday. What else do I got?
We have to add Rogers' ghost injury now.
We'll get there. I've also got Sulcer is with Jupiter. Yacobonis is with Pensacola, and Peyton Henry is in Jupiter. Now, flipping over now to the roster moves, which we waited most of the day for, and they finally came out just now. To our surprise, Trevor Rogers has been put on the 15-day IL, retroactive to the 26th, with low back spasms. Max Meyer to the 60-day IL, not what you want to see, but expected. Williams Astudillo has been designated for assignment. And here comes the fun part. Charles LeBlanc has been added to the Major League roster, and his contract has been selected. Noted Jew who shoves, Jake Fishman has been added to the Marlins active roster. Nick Neidert has been spotted around the area. And did I miss anything?
Well, you try to cover too much at one time, I would say.
They tried to do too much at one time. Yeah.
If you want to go through this rehab stuff first, I believe this would be the first time that Sixto is facing live batters in a gazillion years. When
his velo was up to 90 plus. It was reported on Monday. He's finally making some progress.
Yeah,
that video was ugly, but that came out a couple weeks ago. But he's making progress.
As someone that has completely ridden him off personally, I'm fascinated to see how this goes when he faces live batter, throws live BP in Jupiter. Presumably, we'll see exactly who he's throwing to, but the fact that he's actually getting in the box is interesting. And as Noah referenced, a lot of guys on the verge of returning that haven't quite returned yet. Bender, I think this is going to be his last rehab outing, and he'll be back for the Red Series. then the week after that, they need to figure out what to do with Cole Sulser and Jesus Luzardo and Edward Cabrera, who are all getting super duper close as well. It's so it's going to be a complete mess over this next week because some of these guys being healthy.
So real quick, I can't report that bullpen session's expected to be 26 pitches.
That's a very specific number. Okay.
I know they mentioned it earlier in the week, and the number stuck with me. And hey, that is it's kind of a bullpen number of pitches. Maybe they're trying to convert him.
Well, it's the first step. Yeah.
All right.
Go figure.
Anybody else got anything to say on?
So it looks like Nider's going to get the ball tomorrow for Trevor, huh?
That is, it's either going to be tomorrow or Sunday. And I know Jordan McPherson, the Miami Herald, he was speculating tomorrow. They'd have to make another roster move to get him on there. But with Trevor that's the big surprise today is Trevor going on the IL. And I think that's for the best, hopefully it's not a serious injury. At the very least, the fact that he's now going to get to, on his way back, get to throw some rehab starts in very low pressure situations. I think that's exactly what he needs because it feels like his year has been more mental than physical. His struggle.
He doesn't have to go through the demotion, so they can play it off with the injury.
Right.
Nider last pitch Sunday, and I was writing down some stats for him. His last 8 games, 7 of them have been starts. 2-0 with a 2.02 ERA. 39-6 K to walk ratio with 35 innings pitched. That's not bad, man. I think he's earned himself a start.
Yeah. One of the biggest surprises for me this year was when he was DFA'd and nobody claimed him at the start of the year. That surprised me. And they got fortunate that happened, got to hold on to him, and now he's made the most of it. So he's got him back up here.
Remember, they tried to say that they took him out of a rotation role, and they said he was going to be pitching exclusively out of the bullpen. That didn't last very long. He's throwing the ball well. He's earned a start. I don't know how long it'll be because obviously Cabrera and Luzardo are pretty close, but good for him.
Hey, look, guys, it's Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Do we think it's a good enough Wi-Fi to do the press box report? I guess we'll give it a shot.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
It must be really bad, but it's a good vibe here. There's a good amount of people down on the field, or there were. Daniel's joining right now, but we got some good interviews. I did my interview in Spanish with Pablo. We spoke to Edwin Diaz, and Daniel also got some nice interviews, I think, with Brandon Nimmo. We spoke to Charles LeBlanc, the newly call-up. I'm gonna let Noah speak to Jake Fishman, but he's here too. Super cool guy. Who else is here? Nick Nider's here. That's cool. You guys just spoke about him. And yeah, it's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. Sandy's Beach. We did Eli has the video later.
Yep.
And it's cool. It's a cool vibe here at the ballpark. Let's hope they get a win tonight with Sandy on the mound.
All right, Daniel, you got anything from over there? Or we done with the press box? Please, a disembodied voice now.
No, he muted himself anyway, so I guess we'll keep it brief. But yeah, I do have the prediction videos coming up later between those guys, and
I'm back. So the press box, my take, everyone looks pretty good. Charles LeBlanc was hitting bombs. That was very eventful, seeing that happen. The Mets side, starting Marte, still great. Still think we should have given him that money. He looks like a tank. Everybody looks pretty good. The Marlins look good. Pablo, you could kind of tell with Pablo, like you could tell that things are winding down with the Marlins. Like the way in his voice, the way he's just going around looking at the stadium, just talking to people. Like you could tell that he kind of knows what's going to happen, and that's kind of sad when a player knows that something like that might happen. But overall, the vibes are good, the food is good, the interviews are good. Play on the field, that's a different story.
To be determined with the play on the field. We don't know yet.
If Charles LeBlanc gets there, it's a home run at every at bat.
He hit a bomb to the left to left field in the concourse. That was an absolute shot. Like that was impressive. Oh, this Craig.
Tell Craig to get his predictions. We need his predictions.
Craig, we need your predictions.
What's the question?
What predictions? Mets, Marlins,
series.
3-game set, and
MVP.
One win.
One win.
okay.
2 losses. Okay.
MVP?
Yeah, MVP.
Any team, any team.
Any team, any player.
Escobar.
He said
Eduardo Escobar. I like it.
Horrible last time, so this time he gets in. He was pretty good at VP. He was hitting some bombs.
Some nice bombs, yeah.
All right. Thank you guys from the press box. We will see the video of your predictions later. We'll get back into the injury reports and stuff like that. But thank you guys. Now, get lost. All right. Where were we?
We were on injury. I think we covered all the injury updates.
We were about to move the roster moves.
Yeah, let's talk about the new guys. Let's watch some LeBlanc highlights.
There better be some Fishman propaganda in here.
It's a very effortless swing. Some power there.
Smooth stroke.
So Charles LeBlanc has been called up from AAA. A lot of people have been clamoring for him to be called up. I know Alex Carver has been chomping at the bit for him to get up here. He will wear number 83, the first ever Marlin to wear the number 83 in the regular season. You don't really get much choice when you're coming up at this point in the season on what number you're going to wear. Case in point, Jake Fishman's wearing number 94. What are you guys hoping to see out of Charles LeBlanc?
You know, my expectations for him aren't really all that high. I mean, I get that he's young and I get that he's been playing the minors. He's been playing well, but there's a big difference between a prospect and a minor leaguer, and he's more of a minor leaguer. He's a definition of someone who's earned his spot by putting up really good stats in the minor league, almost like a road to the show, an MLB The Show type thing. So I expect him to try his best and put up some stats, but like if you're expecting him to just become the new third baseman and replace Brian Anderson, then you aren't going to get that.
He's got to replace Brian Anderson and Joey Wendell. Wyatt, Santiago, you guys got anything on LeBlanc?
I can agree with Grant.
Go ahead, Santiago.
He was a minor league Rule 5, was he not?
Mm-hmm.
So, the last minor league Rule 5 guy, I think, to make it with the Marlins was Justin Bohr, the big guy. He ended up being pretty good.
Jake Fishman was also a Rule 5 pick.
Oh, there you go.
From the Blue Jays.
Fishman the year before. Yeah, Fishman pitched well in AAA last year, and he's done it even better this year. I guess I'll put the Fishman highlights up there. But, the fact that LeBlanc, to be a minor league Rule 5 guy and to perform so well immediately and so consistently at AAA, he's a real prospect now. He's a little older than typical prospect now, being 26 years old. He's not a superb traditional athlete, but he rakes. He does the most important thing, which is raking. And he does it at a bunch of different positions, as we'll go to the Fishman highlights now. He plays all the positions that Astudillo does. So, and he's there was really no reason why they brought up Astudillo a second time, because they went through this before with Astudillo. He wasn't good. They DFA'd him. He somehow made it back a few weeks ago. And so I'm not going to say that era is over yet, because he can always come back. He can always clear waivers and come back somehow. But LeBlanc, I think there's every reason to believe that he has a higher upside because he makes better quality contact. And I think he's better defensively at those positions that he plays: second, third base, left field. If he sticks, they have control over him for a half dozen years. The fact that he doesn't have major league experience left. So there's just a lot to gain from giving him a shot and see whether this translates to the highest level.
All right, Brent, you want to say, I think we all cut you off a few times. You got anything you want to say about LeBlanc and Fishman?
With LeBlanc coming up, I'm so much happier with him just because he looks like a ball player. He's definitely athletic and at the game on defensively. I feel like Astudillo had a really bad series on defense, and I thought it was time for him to go, but it looks like my prayers were answered, and Charles LeBlanc is ready to rock. He's in the show. And the other lefty is just nasty delivery. If he can work on his consistency, he'll be in the bullpen for a while.
I would really love for Jake Fishman to stick in the bullpen because I need him to stick around long enough to get him on the podcast. I've completely lost my train of thought. That is a bad look.
To give some people just some specifics on Fishman, the fastball, it's like 88 to 90. That might be generous. So it's really low velo, and it's mostly, but he does have probably a 4-pitch mix. It's mostly fastball, slider. and it's the release point. It's movement on the pitches, and it works against minors hitters. But he's the type of player that you really just don't know exactly what you're getting once he reaches the highest level. There's a reason why he was unprotected, I think, by the Blue Jays a couple of years ago. So my expectations of him, I don't think he's going to get the same long leash that LeBlanc is. It could just be, frankly, a matter of days before he gets squeezed down by some of the, about all these pitchers they've rehabbing that we already mentioned. I don't think Fishman is going to block them from getting back up to the bullpen in the rotation. But I'd be happy just to see him get into one game at the very least. That'd be
preferably
nice.
Sunday's game.
What stands out to me is the delivery.
Yeah.
I think he would be like a perfect lefty guy. I know that's not a big thing anymore, but it's just coming from behind you. It's so far from the outside. It's definitely going to be interesting to watch when he gets to the show.
He's got a little Steven Oker in him, doesn't he? Fishman, was he not on the Olympic squad last year?
He plays for Team Israel.
There you go.
That's why I love him so much. So I'm hoping he plays in the World Baseball Classic. I'll have to ask him about that when I hopefully talk to him on Sunday.
Speaking of that, Noah, there was one interview I did not get, and I know we had a World Baseball Classic question for him. You're going to see him next week. It's Joey Votto. I want you – that's your task next week. I want you to go get some thoughts from Joey Votto on if he's going to play for Team Canada or Freddie Freeman's taking the first base spot.
I don't know if he's going to want to talk to anyone. He had a pretty rough series. But...
so I saw Votto when he wasn't in the game once. It was a Monday. I was being really timid on Monday. I could have gotten Votto. And then I went to the Reds clubhouse the next 3 days and couldn't find him.
All right. Now to move on to the part that I really just don't want to talk about. I personally don't like trades because it means we lose players that I like. Anyone got anything to say on trades? Keep it short before I start crying.
I hate to break it to you, Noah, but your guy, Anthony Bass, like 99.999% chance he's gone. He's got a market for sure. He's got a market, and it makes sense. He's 34. He's having a career year. He could go get a solid return. A lot of talent evaluators have said he can go get a team's top 10 prospect. We'll see if that actually happens, but the starting pitcher and the relieving pitcher market on this year's deadline is very, very short of talent. And Anthony Bass is maybe one of the best relievers on the market this year. So he would be a great addition to any team. And I'd be really surprised. I'd be very, very, very surprised if the Marlins don't deal with him. That's like my only guarantee personally for the Marlins at the deadline. I could say more, but I want to pass to others real quick. And then I'll drop a little tidbit here in a second.
All right. Anybody else got something to talk about on trades? Santiago?
I don't think the Marlins aren't in a bad spot, man. They're in a spot where they don't have to trade guys like Anthony Bass. He's got a $3 million option next year. I know there was a report out that $3 million may be much, but Dylan Floro's making $3 million this year. Same thing. There you go. Yes. Same thing with Pablo Lopez. I mean, if they really, really get something that they want, then I guess you can pull the trigger, but they don't have to. He's got 2 years of arbitration coming up, and they're in a spot where if I'm making a trade with somebody, I'm like, I want this, I want that, and if I don't get it, no deal. So I don't think the Marlins are in a bad spot. I think there will be guys. I think Floro could be another guy that could be moved, but Aguilar, but they're not in a spot where they have to do a lot of things here. So they're not in a bad spot.
Staying in the bullpen, I would say Okert's also a sleeper. He's been solid. There are some moments where it's like, what are you doing? But for the most part, Steven Okert's been solid, and he'd be really nice for any team to have.
Eli, you're giving us that look like you're a little skeptical on what everyone's saying here.
Right. What I want to point out with guys like Bass and Pablo is that their trade value is not going to get any higher than it is right now. Pablo to have 3 playoff runs in him and Bass to have that entire extra year, as we mentioned, at a very efficient rate. They're going to get a lot more in return for those guys than they would even get in the offseason or especially next trade deadline. And that's why it's so tempting to deal them, especially somebody like Bass, because I've been a guy of the opinion where I don't want them to trade Pablo. That I think they take him for granted, and that's going to be a lot harder than you think for this next wave of young starters to replace him. But that next wave of young starters, some of them aren't going to quite stick in the rotation, yet I think they can be really impactful in the bullpen. Like the future of this bullpen internally, I think is super bright, that they already have all the arms they are going to need beginning next year to fill out a very good bullpen of all these guys, a lot of whom used to be starters, some of them that are doing really well in relief in the minors. And so I would encourage the team to be very open to moving a lot of different relievers, including Bass, including Okert, including really under the radar guys like even Zach Pop, who he's performed generally well so far. And I think the underlying stuff on him is even more encouraging. Like he has more value now than he did when they acquired him in the first place. I think they should be totally open to dealing out of their bullpen because I trust them to replace that internally with guys that they already have in their system. The one guy that we've been over again and again for weeks now is Aguilar, and how whether it's a trade, even if nobody wants to trade for him, if it has to be, unfortunately, a DFA, I don't see a fit with him on this team beyond Tuesday. It just does not make sense. And he's given them all he can give them, including very recently. He had one of his best games of the year. That's great. And hopefully that encourages another team to bring him aboard and have a role for him. I think he has totally, his time here is done. And I would encourage them to do whatever possible to unload him.
All right. Grant, you have your little tidbit that you want to
I do
share.
have a little
and then I think we'll go to break.
I've got a clearance from some of my sources to say this, and I will say that, well, it's pretty obvious as well about this part, but the Marlins are getting offers on pretty much everyone. And I know they said they're not going to trade Sandy, but the teams are still going to throw in offers for it. The Marlins are communicating with everyone, but they have made there's been some talking back and forth. No official offers are in on this, but the Marlins and Dodgers have talked for Pablo Lopez specifically. So the Dodgers they believe that Castillo is going to be a Yankee. I believe Castillo is going to be a Yankee. It's just a question of what else are the Yankees going to include besides Oswald Peraza. So I think the Dodgers are trying to go find another option with Pablo Lopez. He's the second best starting pitcher on the market. He may be the third best overall player on the market behind Castillo and Soto, but I'm not here to go evaluate those other guys' talent right now. But yeah, the Dodgers and Marlins are definitely talking around Pablo Lopez, and the Dodgers have some really good prospects. I think you could go get Vargas back from the Dodgers. We discussed a lot of this in my trade deadline spaces we did on Sunday or last Sunday. I'll host one more on Sunday as like a scheduled one, and maybe one on Tuesday too after the deadline's over, and then we'll do like any emergency ones. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much the packages that were discussed there. It's no surprise that the Dodgers are interested, and they've shown interest in Cooper as well, as have the Astros.
All right. We got some Grant bombs being dropped.
Yeah, we should mention with Cooper. I don't know why we didn't bring him up because he's injured right now, but it's not a serious injury. He's expected back as soon as that stint is over on right after the deadline, probably August 3rd or so. And we know he's an all-star, and he was hitting so well early on this year until the final few weeks before the deadline. There are naturally going to be a lot of teams interested in him. He could hit righties. He could hit lefties. He could, in an emergency, I guess he could play the corner outfield spots. He's going to be really affordable next year. And he's somebody that I'd rather hold on to him. I don't think what they get in return is going to justify that. But I think the Marlins are understandably listening because they could be surprised if there is a certain price for somebody like Cooper because of his limitations, because of his injury risk, that I think it could make sense potentially to
I think they're reluctant is what I've read so far. I haven't heard like an actual things that they're reluctant on Cooper for sure. And I have one more thing on Cooper. Oh yeah. My interview with him the other day, he said, look, Musis, I've been traded 2 times, the rumors they exist. It's a busy time of year. And so he's acknowledged that, it could happen and he's used to it. So that's just one other thing I'll throw out there.
All right. Let's go to break. And then when we come back, we will preview the upcoming series against the New York Mets.
Well, I'm glad you set up that break, Noah, but I didn't exactly have anything loaded up for that situation.
I've been saying in the private chat, are you ready for a break? Come on.
I'm probably frozen my faces as I'm trying to bring down the LeBlanc interview that Daniel had pregame with him.
If you can't, I can just ramble on about trade stuff for a second.
No.
Let's see if it's cooperating. Yeah, I'll probably need like 40 seconds, and then we could play a few questions that Daniel asked to LeBlanc before the game.
Anyone got anything to say? Wyatt,
Look, real
Brent?
quick. Wendell,
time.
I don't think they're going to trade Wendell. I mean, teams are interested, but right now his value's not as high as it should be. And I know he's been performing well recently, but I would be really, really surprised if Marlins deal him, especially with other uncertainty in the infield. That's just me, though. I haven't heard anything on Wendell.
Okay, well, now we could queue it up if you guys would like.
Let's do it.
A few questions prior to the game with newly recalled Charles LeBlanc. This was even before it was officially announced that he was on the roster as well. Oh, boy, did I share this correctly? Let me make sure that I got the audio in here for everybody to listen to. Yeah. But this is the newest Marlin, Charles LeBlanc, with our own Daniel Rodriguez at Lone Depot Park.
Rodriguez for Fish Stripes. I'm here with Charles LeBlanc. Charles, how does it feel like to be in the majors?
It's special. It all happened so fast. Yesterday I got told I was just added on the taxi squad, if you may, and about maybe half an hour ago, I just got told I was a big leaguer. So, it's pretty awesome. It's special.
Have you been able to talk to anyone, family, your parents, anyone? How are they reacting to it? If you were able to tell them.
I did call my fiance, called my parents, everyone. Everyone cried. I cried. It was a great moment.
And also, just what does it also mean to you to get this moment, playing in AAA and now getting this call? What does it mean to you, as a kid, probably loving baseball, to now where you're at with Marlins?
It's a dream come true. I haven't played a single game yet, and it just feels so special. Just being here, being in a big league clubhouse, being able to call myself a big leaguer. Obviously I got a lot to prove, and hopefully I can help the team win with some more ball games. But yeah, it's been awesome.
How are the guys in the clubhouse? Have you been able to introduce yourself? Some guys probably from Jacksonville. How have you been able to talk to them?
Yeah, you just said it. There's a lot of familiar faces from Jacksonville, so it's great to walk around and see the guys that I played with early this year, and now they're all up here. So it's cool.
Well, thank you, Charles. It's been a great interview, and good luck the rest of the season and your career.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to answer a question, I think I mentioned this earlier, but Charles plays like a lot of positions. He has started at first, at second, at third, at left field, but it's primarily second and third. So it's the positions that Astudillo was playing. And I don't think any of us will ever understand why they had Astudillo up here for such a large chunk of the season when this guy has more upside with the bat.
They needed a relief pitcher.
Yeah. So just for this past week, I would say this is not a great way of thinking, in my opinion. But I think the Marlins said because Astudillo was on that taxi squad, they just went with convenience, which that didn't really make a lot of sense to me since they flew Blade up and then they flew Castano up on Wednesday. So it was like, why can't you just fly LeBlanc up? What more did you need to see?
Right. It's a really interesting puzzle because as much as Wyatt and other people are impressed with Brazoban, what they've seen of him, he wasn't on like the top of the list of guys they needed to call up. He was just on the taxi squad when they needed they had more injuries. And by default, he was the guy there. He was the convenient guy for that assignment. And he's been a good first impression as well. It's strange that they have this, I guess you could say, philosophy that the next men up on the taxi squad aren't always the guys that are the most qualified to fill in. It's just a juggling act between figuring out who should be getting as much playing time as possible at AAA versus who should be ready for when the opportunity presents itself.
All right. So I think it's time we look into this upcoming series, which starts tonight with Sandy on the mound facing Chris Bassett. They haven't announced starters for the next 2 days. We're assuming that it's going to be Nick Neidert maybe tomorrow versus Carlos Carrasco. And we have either that or Nick Neidert goes on Sunday. If Pablo is not going on Sunday, it's scheduled for Pablo lines up for Sunday to face Taijuan Walker. We've got the lineups here. We've got the Mets are putting out Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, Daniel Vogelback, who we just saw with the Pirates, Jeff McNeil, Mark Canha, Luis Guillorme, and Tomas Nido. The Marlins sending out 3 lefties, which is rare. Even rarer is the 4 lefties. We got Joey Wendell, Jesus Aguilar, Lewin Diaz, Avisario Garcia, JJ Bleday, Miguel Rojas, Brian De La Cruz, Luke Williams, and Jacob Stallings. Eli, anyone specific you want to talk about?
We could touch on Jeff McNeil because he was the default NL All-Star starter at second base after Jazz got hurt, and he's been pretty terrible quietly over an extended period of time. He got off to a very good start for the majority of this year, and then around a minor, I think it was a hamstring injury, he hasn't been very productive as of late. I think it's only a matter of time before he bounces back and snaps out of it. It is, but that's kind of why he's batting as deep down in their lineup as he is, instead of somebody that used to be at the very top or in the very heart of the lineup at the moment. But aside from that, it's the Marlins using the exact same lineup they used yesterday. And that's been a rarity to actually have the same 9 guys in there one day after another. It's not a good group of 9 guys, but it's just consistency. There's a peace of mind in having familiar faces there. Not being
I don't like
complicated.
Day moving down. I mean, I know we have familiar faces, but there's a little bit of a shuffle. Good for Lewa moving up, but I cannot understand for the life of me why Avisail Garcia continues to bat cleanup. I don't understand it. JJ Bleday just had an awesome first week in the MLB. Why are you not putting him there? He has power. I think he's going to hit another home run this series. Why are you continuing to trot out Avisail Garcia in that spot?
It's because he got the money, Grant.
Well, here's the thing with that. This Marlins front office, since they've taken over, since this new regime's taken over, they try so hard to just salvage any move they have. We watched Lewis Brinson for a couple extra years than we should have. Like, they just try so hard to just milk anything out and get like anything out of any mistakes that they've made. So I'm sure we're going to see Avisail in the cleanup spot for the rest of the season, but I don't understand it.
No, definitely. If they haven't moved him by now, they're not going to move him at all.
Oh, not a chance.
The lineup's getting written from the front office. But
okay, yes, I did just pick Avisail Garcia as my MVP, but we sent out a tweet earlier that day that said his career OPS was like over 1,000 at Great American Ballpark. I was feeling good. I was at my first ever series covering games. I wanted to do something bold, so I picked Avisail Garcia, and it wasn't all the way far off. And look, talking about guys who've struggled recently, maybe he could turn it around. Jacob Stallings just played absolutely incredible. And like before all this happened, I wasn't the biggest fan of Jacob Stallings, but he's been well, and now I'm going to root for him for that reason. So maybe Avisail Garcia can prove me wrong, but I don't understand why 4th in the lineup. I don't get it.
Wyatt, anyone in either lineup you want to specifically talk about?
Just going back to Garcia, I think it should be a rule to write off former Brewers as a whole at this point. Just can't trust him anymore. But it'll be interesting to see Diaz build off of success in the last series. He's one of 2 batters in the lineup that over like the last 30 days have a WRC plus over 100. I mean, that's through like right around 20 plate appearances. But to see any more sustained success there would be exciting.
There's one thing if there's one thing we do love here at Fish Stripes, it's small sample sizes. Santiago, you got anyone specifically you want to talk about?
To Grant's point, if Soler doesn't go down with a back injury, Bleday doesn't even get the call. It'd be Soler batting 3rd today. And then, you don't want to wish an injury upon anybody, but, if Soler's back doesn't give out on him in Pittsburgh, Bleday's still in Jacksonville. So I think it is time to let the kids play a little bit, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Aguilar for the 2020 season, what he meant to that team. And he was a stud in Milwaukee, and he was able to turn his career around here. But yeah, it's it looks like this is going to be the end, and it's time for Lewin to let's see what he's got. I don't mind him batting 3rd. So
he also had an excellent series. There was a lot of really excellent series from players in Cincinnati this week. Lewin Diaz drew a lot of walks, got some singles on there, and you got to reward that at this point. We need to start rewarding our guys.
All right.
I would like to see Lord and Savior Jesus Sanchez in the lineup today.
He pinch hit yesterday and got the home run. You got to set up the storylines correctly.
So why try out Brian De La Cruz? That part also doesn't make a lot of sense to
So
me.
Brian De La Cruz is hitting has a batting average of 714 against Chris Bassett, the smallest sample size ever, but it's there, so I'm saying it.
Look, if we like small sample sizes, then there you go.
I told you. All right. Where to next? I feel like
the
I think
Mets
we are going
lineup.
a little too fast. I need to slow this down.
Let's go Mets lineup, Noah.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing to point out is obviously LeBlanc is not in here, so that remains to be seen how they're going to use him. They were using Astudillo in the majority of games when he was up here as a starter. So for tonight, it's Luke Williams at second base. I'm going to be curious to see exactly what the split is between Williams and LeBlanc. They play many of the same positions. And really, I suppose also De La Cruz is going to go a big factor in there. I would think that LeBlanc is going to take some playing time from De La Cruz because even more so than Astudillo, he can at least fake it in the outfield. So I'll be eager to see when LeBlanc debuts. I presume tomorrow. But it's a weird mix because they're all right-handed batters. So there's no like obvious platoon between DLC and Williams and LeBlanc. That remains to be seen exactly how they utilize him. They did call him up, and I expect them to utilize him. But that's what we're going to find out.
All right. Going to the Mets lineup, the Mets continue to make moves, and they just terrify me as a fan of another team in the NL East. They just picked up Tyler Naquin, who is probably tired of facing the Marlins at this point. You see Daniel Vogelback is in their lineup. What do you guys see from the Mets? Are you as terrified as I am?
Well, first of all, they just beat the Yankees twice. So they are rolling right now. I mean, it's going to be cool to see Pete Alonso and Vogelbach back to back. Those two massive human beings. Francisco Lindor has very good success against the Marlins this past year. And Starlin Marte, he's just an all-around good baseball player. And I love Brandon Nimmo, so I'm always, even though I don't like the Mets, I'm always rooting for Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah,
What would be interesting to watch is there's the concept of the trap game in college football, but this feels like a trap series for the Mets. I mean, they're coming off the Subway Series, a sweep, so the spirits are high. There's like talk at the trade deadline of getting better, so attention is elsewhere, and so it'll be interesting to see if with like focus diverted elsewhere, it's not to any player specifically, but to the team as a whole, that perhaps with a lot of things going on in a lot of different directions, the Mets don't come out as hot as they usually do.
So
Maybe
I saw someone tweet out earlier, I think it was Isaac, what happens if the Marlins sweep the Mets? I'm going to go around the room. Eli, what do you think happens if the Marlins sweep the Mets?
Nothing. Makes no difference. It should not make a difference whatsoever as to what is going on. So that is my simple answer. Doesn't change anything.
Well, all my friends that are Mets fans, there's actually a big handful of Mets fans in Miami, and they are all super, super loud, obnoxious fans. So the only thing I can think of is they're just going to hear it from me for the next couple of days, and that's about it.
As they should. Grant?
I think what would happen if the Marlins sweep the Mets, I would turn my PlayStation off. It's not happening.
Wyatt?
Just get it out of your heads.
Don't buy into the hype. I mean, if they sweep, don't suddenly think that the Marlins should be buyers at the trade deadline. It's 3 games. You can't overreact to it. It'd be an incredible 3-game set to watch, but I don't think you can take too much from it.
Santiago?
Right there with Eli and Wyatt. I think the Marlins are going to be both buyers and sellers come Tuesday. Sweep of the Mets won't change that.
And my feeling is chaos. So it's just chaos. All right. I think it's high time we get into predictions. We'll go around the room. We'll see the video of the guys at the ballpark.
Yeah, let's start with the video, I suppose.
We'll start with the video.
Do I have it loaded up? Yeah, I think this one I actually loaded up ahead of time. So this is Kevin. This is Daniel Rodriguez, as you saw earlier in the show, and it's also a couple guys, Alex Aguirre from Lemon City Live and Andres Bolivar. I got to remember what his outlet is, but take a listen to their predictions.
Fish Stripes Live predictions. As you can see behind us, we have Sandy's Beach. You have a little palm tree right here. Looks pretty cool. This is a section where Sandy, you'll be able to hold a K sign for Sandy, a strikeout sign. So let's go into predictions. 3 games set against the New York Mets. Daniel?
I'm going to go Mets win 2-1. It's going to be a tough series for the Marlins. I think Francisco Lindor is going to be series MVP. He rakes against the fish.
And that is also Eli's boy. So, Alex, Lemon City Lime 305 podcast. Who do you think wins the series, and who is your MVP?
Okay, well, I was correct on my MVP, my predictions for last series, and I gave my MVP to Sandy, even though it wasn't his best start. So I'm going to roll with it. Marlins go 2-1. They win this series. My MVP, I don't. Man, you put me on the spot there. I can't pick one right now. You know what? JJ Bleday.
I like that.
JJ Bleday.
I like that. Before we go to our final prediction, I'm going to go Mets take 2 out of 3. And I think the MVP will be, I'm going to go Jeff McNeil as the series MVP. I think that's a pretty good choice. He's been one of the harder hitters on the Mets. And then our final prediction, Andres out here.
Right here.
As usual.
Okay, so I'm stuck in this game. But I'm going to say Marlins 2, Mets 1. And the MVP is going to be Joey Wendell.
There it is. Miami Marlins. Serious predictions. Hope you guys have a good stream, boys.
Yeah.
We should probably point out that it's Lemon City Live, not Lemon City Lime.
He does it every time.
Does it every time, even when he types it out.
He also said Jeff McNeil's been one of the hotter hitters, and we said on the stream that he's not.
Yeah. I did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure that we give accurate information on here. But to look at the last series, there was a lot of. It always surprises me how much optimism there is, even when at every single point of the season. So most people had the Marlins winning the series, and they end up splitting it. And a few of us had that correct. It looks like.
I would have said Reds 3-1 if I wasn't there. I was just really happy.
I bought into the hype, as usual.
Right. And one other thing I want to show is that what we started doing is with our super followers on Twitter, Fish Stripes, as of this month, we accept paid subscriptions on Twitter where we provide you with unprecedented access to what we're working on and opportunities like this to participate in our predictions, even when you're not on the panel itself. So from Romeo Rodriguez and from Riley Fuentes, both of them having the Marlins winning the series, Riley having it a sweep with Jacob Stallings as MVP, and Romeo Marlins winning 2 out of 3 with Joey Wendell as his MVP. So if you were interested at all in supporting us and in getting some perks like this and being involved in our predictions, just go to our Twitter profile and become a super follower.
All right, going around the room, we'll start with Brent. Brent, what is your prediction for this series?
Like what Wyatt said with the trap game, I'm buying into that. I thought we finished the last game of the last series swinging well, and I think Marlins are going to win 2. We're going to lose 1, and I'm going my MVP. JJ Bleday, I think he's going to hit a home run and split a couple gaps this weekend.
All right, Grant.
I'm going to go Mets 2 out of 3 and Lindor. I don't really have a lot of commentary on it. I think they'll win the night, but with all the uncertainty this weekend, it probably won't be good. I think Lindor's going to hit multiple bombs too.
Wyatt.
Hate to come on here my first time and be negative, but I think it'll be Mets taking 2 out of the 3. I think the Marlins will win tonight. For my MVP, I'm going to pick Starling Marte.
There's no shame in being negative. There are people that come on the stream repeatedly and they still have 0 points on our leaderboard because they pick with their heart and not their mind. They are stuck on the bottom. We have a leaderboard with like 40 people on it.
Listen, you don't have to personally attack me, all right?
Yes. Look at Noah. All the way, he barely fits on the screen behind me on our
I think I'm tied dead last
so far here. Yeah, so there is no shame in predicting with your mind and just trying to that's why you're on here as an expert panelist. So, yeah.
I felt personally attacked by that. Santiago.
I'm going to go Marlins 2-1 because of 2 names, Sandy and Pablo. For MVP, I'm going to go with my guy closing out probably his Marlins career with a bang. Arepa Power. Jesus Aguilar.
Is Pablo even going to start this series? Is he going to be employed by Miami by the end of the series?
We are not doing that prediction. Eli.
I have the Marlins going 1-2, only winning 1 game in this series. They are as much as Lil Blanc could give them a boost, but as we said, he's not in the lineup tonight. So even Sandy Day is a little bit iffy, in my opinion, in terms of whether they pull this one out. And but they're going to avoid the sweep, keep their heads above water. I don't know. They're not going to be embarrassed, but they're going to lose this series for sure. MVP Jeff McNeil I think he's finally going to break out of what's been a pretty inconsistent period for him. He's going to rake during these 3 games.
All right, I have predictions from some of our other Fish Stripes panelists. Louis Adio Weiss says the Marlins are going to win 1. MVP Sandy. Isaac says the Marlins are going to win 1. Pete Alonso is his MVP. For me, to finish this off, we're a little bit early, but I went a little fast. It's my fault. I apologize. I'm going to go with the Marlins take 2 out of 3, and I'm going to say that Lewin Diaz is your series MVP. Anybody got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I should have mentioned, I put this on Twitter. I didn't bring it in here, that Starling Marte, he's on a short list of guys who hit 300 last year and is hitting 300 again this year. It's him, it's Freddie Freeman, it's Trey Turner, and it's Tim Anderson. So guys that are perennial, that are recognized as being like stars, and a guy that the Marlins at this time a year ago was still on the Marlins and could have been around for this year too, instead of somebody else that we know who got 4 year, 2 different players that got 4-year deals. And I think the Mets, that investment is looking pretty wild in their favor. I should mention another factor in the series that the Mets just had an off day. In fact, they've had 2 off days this week. So if you're looking at just little advantages that I think go their way, stuff like that, they're going to have a totally well-rested bullpen for this series. They've made now 3 trades in like the last week to get Vogelbach, to get their new backup catcher. His name escapes me, Michael Perez, and now to get Tyler Naquin. They are going for it. They are
with that. The Marlins, outside of the All-Star break, I mean, even their All-Star break was cut short. The Marlins haven't had a day off this month, not one.
Well, yeah, since the All-Star break, yeah.
To touch Eli's point, I think that's why they should probably hold on to Wendell and Cooper, because for a team that desperately needs offense and you're giving out, 2 guys that still have control over next year, I think.
Yep.
We'll see what happens.
All right. For Brent, for Grant, for Wyatt, for Santiago, for Eli, for the guys in the press box, for Isaac and Lewis, wherever the heck they may be, this has been
Isaac's at the game.
Isaac's at the game. This has been Fish Stripes Live. We'll be back, I think, on Monday to preview the Red Series. And if anything happens in between, then something crazy has happened. Let's hope not. We will see you next time. Thank you all for watching. Good night.